Brett, this game's coming up pretty quickly, so if I can go to the Western Bulldogs, you inherit that big file of midfield, and there's a few issues from last year's preliminary final. How are you dealing with those?
Right now, I'm not really dealing with them. We are closing out what was a pretty good performance on the weekend. They're talented around the ball. They've been like that for a long time, the Dogs. They have an incredible ability to get hold of teams through a midfield battle. It's a really deep group. We're trying to grow ours. Ours is getting deeper by the day. It's not the finished product, but we're working towards something there.
There's a lot of debate about matchups that were or weren't in that prelim. How do you deal with it this time?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure that there were too many set matchups in that game. It was two great teams going against each other, and one team clearly played an outstanding brand, and the other didn't step up. So, yeah, not too sure about matchups. I mean, they've got stars across every line. Just so happens they've got a midfield that's for them. So, as I said, we're growing our group day to day.
Is it just a taken that a result like that lingers with a team, and so they do want to address it the next time round? Is there a benefit or a danger with those sort of games when you deal with them?
Yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of both. I think with this group it won't be, and where we sit today, I don't think it'll be necessarily a revenge type of situation for us. I don't think we're at that position of our season for how we've gone so far. I think we've got another big game. This is another huge game, whether we're in a position to look at trying to, I guess, yeah, as I said, get some revenge on a 74-point thumping. I don't think we're in that conversation today. Maybe if we were 5-2, we might have been in that conversation, but we're not.
As messy as that St Kilda game is to watch because of the conditions, what do you gain out of it that tells you they're taking another step forward?
Oh, we took plenty. We were just having a conversation. I think it'd be a real error by any camp to look at that game, 1 point loss or 1 point win, and be too disappointed. I think both teams had a real crack to the end. Could have gone either way. So for us, it was more an arm wrestle that we're in from the start. We didn't start particularly well once again, but we showed some maturity to be in it all the way to the end. Even though we weren't necessarily getting the scoreboard nourishment, we always felt like we were playing the right way to be in the game.
Speaking of scoreboard, are you finding your midfielders knowing and understanding what's required of Finlayson and Marshall now compared to Dixon?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, and you're right. There are some stark differences there. So yeah, and look, our midfield has taken quite a different appearance, particularly over the last fortnight. But yeah, for the majority of the year, to be honest.
On the starts, I mean, that was kind of it was a slow start last time against Western Bulldogs. I mean, what can you do this time out to, make sure you're not behind the 8 ball from the start?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we can do. We'll be discussing those at length, there's no doubt. The contest around the ball was an issue last time we played them, but it wasn't the only issue. So I guess we'd start there. I mean, that's no different to any other week. Our starts have been a bit of an issue. On the weekend, it was a bit of a slog. We thought we had enough of the ball. We turned some footy over. We wouldn't necessarily do so, and our fight in front of the ball needed to be addressed. And I think we got a great shift on that after some solid messaging at quarter time on the weekend.
Do you know why they're an issue, Monty? It's a bit of a recurring thing.
Not really. I mean, we did some work on it. We've done a lot of work on it, but we addressed it in detail last week about just taking, not necessarily risks, but actually going at a speed that puts the opposition under more pressure. We think we've probably erred on the side of being a little bit conservative early, to be honest. I don't think that's the issue week to week, but that might have been last week's issue. Starts are a problem.
Is this clash the real test, given the anomaly that was, you're not going to play in Cairns most weeks and West Coast are only just going? Will this sort of be the opportunity to sort of find out how far you've come in the past 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, maybe. I haven't given that a great deal of thought, to be honest. As I said before, I'm not sure we're in that position today, sitting at 5-2, that we're at that point where we can say, oh, this is it's a huge game. It's almost like a final. No, we need to just continue to build, and through that build, it's improving across almost everything we do. So I don't think you'll find from our camp this will be built up for anything any more than it is, and that's just another opportunity to win.
Brett, you dropped Carl Amon. He gets a late reprise if he plays again. Where's he shown you more in the past 2 weeks than what it was before you dropped him?
Greater urgency, no doubt about that. I think that's a really easy one. I think he'd fallen, and by his own admission, he'd probably fallen into some habits that didn't reflect or didn't replicate the seasons of the last couple for him. So I think he showed great self-awareness to take on some feedback and get an instant response.
Monty, there was a point raised by your skipper in the pre-season about sort of mental scars and what the prelim can do now that it is the Bulldogs again. Do you get the feeling that players could be perhaps spooked by the same opposition, or you're comfortable that it's in the past and it's no longer a factor?
Yeah, that would be it'd be some risk for me to answer that categorically, mate. I think we'd be naive to think there wouldn't be something there, and really there should be something there. What it is, it's how you respond to that. And I guess that will be something we'll discuss during the week. Not how big this game is or how much bigger this fixture is to any other week, but where do we sit on that? Yeah, I think that'd be well worth the discussion.
So what does that conversation involve? Is it, from a coach's point of view, how do you make players feel settled or comfortable in their preparation? What is it about that conversation?
I think what we do reasonably well here is just making sure our players are aware of what's about to play out, and not with any guarantee, but some guidance and some advice about what they're in for, what they do well, and again, this will be no different to any other week. But we've got a fair handle on the way the Bulldogs play. They're probably not at the absolute top of their game if they were being fair too. So we've got two teams that are trying to establish themselves back in the competition right now, coming up against each other.
Do you remind your boys that do you have to do it all? You played in a couple of prelim finals. You're probably not far off finding your best footy. You're never as bad as you feel. That's
there's a bit of that. There's a bit of that. I still think the belief's really high here. I know the spirit is, and again, you at some risk, you'd take a bit of a gamble or a guess on where everyone's at. But from what we see on face value, I belief's high. Confidence is good. And I do really think we're building.
I know you said you're not really in a position for revenge, but just going back to Theo's point, is it a kind of opportunity to maybe put that to bed? I guess any talk around scars from the prelim?
Look, I really don't think so, but that's only my personal opinion. I do think it's another opportunity just to get a win, and at this stage of the season where we sit today, we haven't got the luxury to look back and to look at this week as a revenge match. We need to just keep stringing wins together.
George Oates, any update?
Not really at this stage. It's really minor. It's so minor that he actually played, going in with that same calf concern. So I can't imagine, and I haven't heard of any increased damage. But it's early. Yeah.
As a midfield coach, we've seen Connor Rosie, I guess the last 10 quarters, really turn a season around. What have you been giving him any messages? What's kind of behind all of this?
Look, I think the first thing with Connor is, and you did reference the 10 quarters quite rightly, we would have loved to have had him around the ball a lot earlier in the season, but the facts are we had no Charlie, no Robbie, no Orazio, and you still got to kick a score to win a game. So he's got some talents in that area of the ground that we just thought we couldn't be without. Now that some of those pieces have returned, to either a little bit more form from others or personnel, we've been given that luxury to get him in there a bit more. So continuity is pretty important. His contest has improved out of sight. His ability to understand what it takes to be an AFL midfielder is growing week to week. So we're really thrilled with what he's doing right now.
You mentioned Robbie before. I mean, his kind of footy smarts against the Kilda,
Yeah.
they were crucial.
Oh, what a mature performance. He didn't need to have 20, and he was probably the guy on the ground that knew that more than anyone. He just needed to have quality, and his quality was there when it counted.
He's 34. I mean, you can go around again, surely.
I'll let you write about that one.
Is there any doubt? 30 seconds to go. Is there any better player in the world that could have the ball in their hands?
There was no doubt. No. He's a remarkable person, a remarkable player. Again, go back to that, just complete understanding of his game and what the game requires. And he was there when we needed him. He would be the first one to say it wasn't his biggest game. But if you asked the two coaches on the night who had the influence when it mattered, it'd be a pretty easy one.
Talk about your
Nice couple.
midfield depth. Lockie Jones played the first half down back yesterday. He was brilliant, and then moved into the centre. Is he someone that you could look to just to pinch hit at times, or is that a longer term move for him eventually?
Potentially. Again, we bring these talented guys in, and we've we would be silly to pigeonhole them in positions that perhaps they play as a junior or is in their first year in the sample, and they've just got scope to do other things. And we see a lot in Lockie that he could be potentially a great forward. We saw on the weekend that we wanted some energy, speed, pressure, presence around the ball, and he had a great second half of that game and added to what was a very impressive performance. So, yeah, he's just another one that, again, scope is important. Someone with a lens that sees far more than what they've shown just as a junior. It's important.
Just going back to Robbie, I mean, 34, how I guess everyone was saying, you know, it's the best pre-season in ages. I mean, how have you seen his, body, hold up, despite, I guess.
Yeah, he's got his challenges. But again, like his game, he knows his body really well. So, yeah, I can't say he's going to play every game from here to the end of the season, but gee, we hope he does.
Do you feel like he walked taller when he's in the side? Yeah, everyone kind of walks taller. I know he missed a couple of games when the team probably wasn't up and about.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Yeah.
Thanks, Monty.
No worries.